It should be recording now.
Perfect. I see it. All right. Okay. Good afternoon and good morning, everyone, depending on which part of the world you are in at the moment. This is our April quarterly House of Delegates meeting, and I'm very excited to have you guys all here today. I hope that everyone can see my screen. It has our agenda for today's meeting. I wanted to go ahead and let you all know that this meeting is being recorded. And just quick introduction. My name is Alexi Kendrick. I am the Speaker of the House of Delegates. And Bill, do you want to just kind of raise your hand? I can't see you on my screen, so Bill is on as well. He is our Speaker-elect. And let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to invite Christiana. Is she on yet?
I'm here. Hello.
For our DE&I spotlight for today. Hi, Christiana.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Hi, Alexi. I like your bangs.
Thank you. It was a spur of the
Nice.
moment decision a couple weeks ago. We're still getting used to it.
Not all of us can do it. So yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to do the DE&I spotlight today. I'm going to bring it full circle. Hopefully I don't get distracted by a squirrel. I thought that it would be really neat to talk a little bit about Indian culture today. I have had the pleasure of working with a few people over the years from India, and it's really interesting, some of the parallels that and some of the differences that we have in our cultures. One thing that I think is really cool is their weddings are a massive event. We think a big wedding here in the United States is like 100 or 200 people. Well, over there, it is like an actual block party, and they invite their entire neighborhoods. It is a community event, and it will go for days, like 3 to 5 days. And they will have thousands of people that come during those days. And what I thought was interesting, and where this comes full circle for me, was that I was talking with one of our engineers yesterday named Uday, and Uday just got back from India, and he got married recently. And apparently in Indian culture, it is the son or the males who will take care of their parents when the parents get older. And I thought that was interesting because, in like United States American kind of culture, what I've heard, is that the daughters are the ones that usually, take care of our parents. I'm not saying that's true in all cases. It's just something that, they say, oh, your little girl will never leave you, blah, blah, blah. So I thought that was interesting that it's kind of spelled out in the Indian culture, and it was actually a law. And they live in like a kind of commune, or they used to. It's become more Americanized over the years, but they'll have like, when they used to have land, they would have like a central area of the house, which is the kitchen and everything. And then they would have wings for the different parts of the family. And so they would all live together and just keep expanding. And so part of my role, I'm a delegate at large, and my constituency is caregivers. So I thought that really came full circle for me. And, something I'm passionate about is that, we engage those folks who are in that kind of difficult part of their career and life, where they are caring for either little ones or their parents, and they may not have as much time to contribute, but still want to stay involved, or sometimes they can't come to in-person events. So keeping some virtual options or like micro volunteering opportunities available to them, because, if we all were to take a step back during that time in our career, the water sector would suffer, and so would these professional associations that add so much value to our careers. So that's it. Thanks for the opportunity. I hope that you learned something.
Thank you very much, Christiana. I appreciate that. So again, welcome to the April quarterly House of Delegates meeting. Again, this is being recorded. We are here together for the next 2 hours, you lucky ducks. So we'll go ahead and get started. So again, welcome, Alexi Kendrick, Speaker of the House of Delegates. I have a few things that I wanted to just briefly touch on today with you guys. First off, the first WEF Max is done for the season. So that was in Alexandria, Virginia last year. Excellent event. A lot of really, really great conversation. I think it was interesting in that there wasn't as many delegates as there were MA leaders, which I think really brought an awesome lens and a new type of conversation to the table. So it was great. Our WEF Max committee is doing an awesome job. Our host did a fantastic job. And I want to remind everyone that there are 2 more in-person WEF Maxes for this year. One of them in Park City, Utah. And then the other one will be in St. Petersburg, Florida. And I'm probably stealing Dave's thunder, but Park City, I'm very excited to say what is sold out. So if you haven't yet signed up for a WEF Max, please sign up for the one in St. Petersburg. That one is still open. And for 2025, I wanted to give you all a heads up on the locations for our WEF Max conferences. Those will be in New England, Oklahoma, and California. So start thinking about which one you might want to attend for next year. More information, it is what I'm going to call our new delegate season. So a lot of our member associations, they are having their annual meetings and selecting their new delegates for this upcoming year. So you guys might be seeing some new faces popping in. And I just want to thank them all for their time and commitment to the House of Delegates. And we're very excited to have all of our delegate elects. I know there's some on the call today. So very excited to have you guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Work groups. Bill is starting the process of putting together work groups for next year. If you guys have any topics that you think would be of interest or things that you'd like to work on, please reach out to him or myself on that so he can kind of put those on his radar. Delegate at large applications are live right now. So if you guys know anyone who you think would be a great delegate at large, please encourage them to apply. Also, committee applications will be going out soon. So as a reminder, if you are a delegate, it is expected that you participate on a committee or work group. Committees do require an application process. And again, those will be live soon. And then finally, really quick, WEF Tech. So I know that it feels like it's really far away. It's not. It'll be here before we know it. So WEF Tech is in New Orleans this year, October 5th through 9th. And the House of Delegates meeting will be on October 5th. That is that Saturday of WEF Tech. And it is expected that that delegates all attend that meeting in person, if at all possible. We are putting an idea together to sell t-shirts similar to the WEF Max to help fund delegates who may not receive backing from their MAs or delegate at larges who don't receive financial backing to attend WEF Tech. So I'm putting that together and I will announce it and let everyone know once I get that set up. So that is everything that I have for you guys right now. I am going to turn it over to Diego for a Board of Trustees update.
Hello, everyone. I'm sure you gathered by now that I'm not in my office. I'm out in the field testing bubbles, but I sought refuge in the truck because it's too noisy outside by the aeration tanks. So a quick update from the board. Big activity this year that is engaging the board is the search for the new executive director of the organization. And the first steps are completed, which is, the application got in and there is an external firm that helps supporting the search committee, and the search committee will now engage in the interviews. And they will go into May when the board will interview the finalists at the end of May, and then there will be a decision, I suppose, in early June. So this is the ongoing main activity there. Also, the board has been really happy seeing all of the energy from the staff in implementing the strategic plan, reinventing a lot of the activities we do, reimagining them, all the way to reimagining the specialty conferences. That was the latest update we got yesterday. So there's a lot of things going on, and this year I was assigned actually to be the liaison to the HOD. That's why I'm reporting here. But there are a number of other board members on the call. Probably I saw Janet's name appearing in one of the comments to the very nice and thoughtful comments from Christiana. So one of the things that I noticed as part of this strategic activities of the HOD, I noticed how much of reinventing, reimagining strategically it's been going on also at the HOD. This is really what the board was thinking about when the strategic plan was being rolled out, that it will be embraced at all levels. So thank you all very much for the wonderful work you're doing there. And for what I hear about the WEF, the first WEF Max was a great success, and that there's more things that are going to come up. So thumbs up for sure. And I can stay a second if there are any questions. Otherwise, I'll just mute the camera, but I'll listen for the rest of the call. And other people from the board who are present in the call, please feel free to chime in and answer if I don't get my gloves off quickly.
Fantastic. Thank you, Diego. Does anyone on the board who's on want to jump in and chime in on that? I'll give you guys a second. Okay, fantastic. All right, next on the agenda is our update from our Community Leadership Council liaison. Ian, are you available and on?
Yes, hello.
Fantastic. Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate, we appreciate the opportunity. So we had some great activities at winter meeting, both with in joint activities with the Students, Young Professionals and the Springboard program, as well as with the House of Delegates. And so we're always grateful for that participation and opportunity to rub shoulders with many of you and continue to figure out ways that we can collaborate going forward. A few quick updates of things that we're working on. We continue to try to move the leadership task force initiatives ahead and get some modules published soon that will provide more training resources for volunteer leaders. We hope that this will be a resource also for many of you in the House of Delegates and at the MA level. So we will make sure that you guys have links and access to that. It will be published on WEF Unity, and we'll continue to roll out more modules over time. We are in the process of having the DE&I committee help review it as well, so that we can ensure that we are focused on making sure that has the right content there. So looking forward to getting that moving along here. We are also working on a community review initiative. We used to have kind of a sunset program where every so often the communities would evaluate and do a sunset process, see if it makes sense for the communities, if they're still viable, or if they should make modifications or change their mission statement or be sunset and go away. So we're trying to revamp that process so that we can streamline that, make it a little bit more, be able to provide more consistent updates to the board on the activities of the communities. Part of this is we'll be using WEF Unity to create a spot for those community updates to go. And so on that note, continue to work with Jack Connors and WEF to improve WEF Unity. Hopefully many of you have had a chance to explore that a little bit. And the new app has rolled out, which makes using it a lot a lot more convenient as well. Just doing right there from your phone. So we encourage continued collaboration and communication there. Back on the topic of DE&I, that will be something that we as a CLC will be very focused on here coming up in the next several months, making sure that all of our community leaders and volunteers and everyone that's involved from the CLC perspective, that they're getting the appropriate training and focused on those important initiatives that are part of the strategic plan. And then I mentioned the WEF Unity app. Of course, we continue to look for opportunities to collaborate with you at the House of Delegates. Our MET initiatives, as we've probably discussed before, right, have MA outreach people that each community is supposed to try to get leadership roles filled, so that those communities can find ways to outreach to the MAs and collaborate and coordinate, and we can share resources and figure out ways to, share content and things you're doing at your conferences, or else come and present at your conferences and things like that. So that is my quick update. Are there any questions or comments for me?
I have I guess kind of a comment. So I'm on the House of Delegates DEI committee.
Yes.
Valerie is the current chair and I'm the vice chair, but we do quarterly networking calls. And if a future quarterly networking call you'd like to provide content, our audience is not only House of Delegates, but also and anyone from any of the MAs that want to join in. Like if they have people who have DEI committees or people who are trying to start DEI programs within their MA. So if you want, we can connect on that for a future networking call.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to. I just dropped my email address into the chat there, so please reach out and we can try to coordinate something. Thanks, Amy.
Awesome. Thanks.
Awesome. And Ian, you're going to be at the Park City WEF Max, is that correct?
Yes. Come
All
say
right.
hi. Let's
So
connect.
hi.
Those who are going to go to Salt Lake City, it's my hometown, so it's in my backyard, but looking forward to hopefully seeing many of you at WEF Max in Salt Lake City, in Park City.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So I am going to detour a little bit from the agenda right now and invite our nominating committee to go ahead and give their update, since I know that they have a time crunch going on. So Mandy and Jim, I'm going to give you guys the floor to give the update for the nominating committee.
Hi, Lexi. Thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can.
Hi, Lexi. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Mandy,
We got
yep,
you.
we can hear you.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. So, hi, guys. Happy after the first WEF Max and first steering committee meeting afterwards. We had a really fantastic presentation and meeting at WEF Max Virginia. Nice WEF Max overall. The nominations committee has been working in the last couple of weeks to finalize some changes to the delegate at large application. And it really reflected in the Virginia WEF Max in a lot of questions that came from the audience about what the delegate at large application is about, who your constituencies are, what kind of information selections are made based on. So I think in the last year or so, the nominations committee has been asked to relook at the format of the nominations committee, the format of delegate at large, and provide some more clarity, some more, typical lanes, different avenues, some examples of what constituencies can look like. So the nominations committee this year brought back a format that I think was lost when we went into an online, application submittal. And so I think prior to 2019, there were always radio buttons included in the delegate at large application that indicated the constituency that the person wanted to represent: manufacturing, leadership, utilities, whatever it may be, regulators. And when we moved to an online system, that was left out. So we've reintroduced that and made some other changes that that offer some other avenues, non-traditional or underrepresented groups, for instance. Past presidents or past leadership within WEF was another commonly used constituency, but not one that is reflected in the application itself. So I'm very happy that we were able to make some of those changes. And again, I think the conversation and the dialogue at WEF Max Virginia supports supports those changes that we made. Otherwise, a nice change, and I have to give big thanks to Mary and to WEF staff and Rebecca for getting this done in time. But typically nominations have opened in May. And we had this great effort towards recruitment since we have 2 additional committees to represent this year, or to select for 12 additional chairs. And so we made a big effort this year towards recruitment. And in that vein, rather than going to WEFMAX and saying, hey, the applications are going to be open in a month, we got those applications open on April 10th. So those applications are live. Please encourage your peers and your network to apply. Postings are going on social. You should have seen them on the House Delegates page. And hopefully I saw a lot of circulation of my individual post to LinkedIn. So please help us to distribute the word. And then I think the final update that I wanted to share was just that the DEI committee, in order to help drive more delegate at large applications, has graciously offered for us to present to them present as part of the May 2nd, I believe, or May 4th meeting, quarterly meeting. So really excited about being able to reach a broader WEF audience, to bring in some non-traditional pathways for delegates at large. Again, a topic of conversation that came up in Virginia was, this is how the House of Delegates, this is the only place that we have to leverage control of the delegates individually. Everyone else is appointed, everyone else finds their own way via their MA to the House of Delegates. And we really want to leverage that for people that have strategic vision and clarity in what constituency they want to represent. So I think it was overall really positive. We're looking forward to reporting back on how many applications we receive at our next quarterly meeting. But again, big thanks to the DE&I committee, to WEF staff, to the communications group for helping us to get some fantastic materials prepped and posted. So thanks, everybody. And Alexi, thank you for the chance to jump in line early here. I appreciate it, everybody.
Oh, not a problem. Does anyone have any questions for Mandy?
Letting me off easy. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, seriously, guys. All right. Thanks, Mandy.
Okay, have a good one.
Okay. So now I am going to invite John Akita with WEF to give an update on the WEF strategic plan and mission roadmaps. John recently joined WEF. I don't even know how many months ago it's been, but it's been only a few. And he is the Chief Mission Officer. So John, I yield the floor.
Right. Thank you very much. So I'll go ahead and share my screen if that's okay. I've got some slides to step through. Let's see here. So I'm the Chief Mission Officer with WEF. Actually started about 4 months ago now. And I'm leading the development of the implementation plan for WEF strategy. Previously, I was actually the partner in a strategy consulting firm where I led the water practice there. Led the development of national water sector strategies for Kenya and for several other countries. Led the strategy to redesign the country of Bermuda's regulatory framework for the water sector, as well as investment strategies for several private equity funds. And before that was at the World Bank in the water practice there for about 7 years, where I led the design and launch of a $400 million trust fund for global water sector investments. So strategy is something that I've got a lot of experience with, and also a real passion of mine. So, coming into WEF at this time where I could really work on this with a fantastic team and all of the wonderful communities that we have at WEF, to take the strategy that the Board of Trustees and other stakeholders developed and develop the plan for implementing that has been a real honor, and it's been a lot of fun so far. So What I was going to do today was just talk through sort of where we are in the process, and when the implementation plan will be finalized, and also a little bit about the content of it as well. But just high level, I would imagine most of you are familiar with the strategic plan that was launched last year, focusing on 3 strategic goals. Right, so the first one is around the diverse and passionate water workforce. How do we solve that huge need for water professionals that we're expecting to see? Not just on the operator side, but with the need for engineers, the need for more academics in the space. Just really, across the board, how do we get more people excited about water and working in it? The second one is about building a community where people can gather and share solutions to water challenges. So really building on the great work that everyone at WEF does with events and publications and webinars, and using that to bring in new communities, new parts of the water sector, and bridge outside of the water sector as well. And finally is leading the transformation to the circular water economy. Because of climate change, because of increasing urbanization, there's just more and more demand for water resources, and there's a need to reduce the carbon footprint of the water sector. There's a need to look at what's traditionally been thought of as waste and really turn that into resources, and that's what circular water economy is all about. And we think basically WEF's been doing this for almost 100 years, right? I mean, we've been innovating around circular water economy, so now it's time to really create a unifying framework for that and lead the entire sector and build those links with the major water using industries. So the way the process works for taking this and turning it into the implementation plan, we've got 4 different staff-led teams, each one looking at a different aspect of the strategy. So there's a group about 4 or 5 on each. One looking at the water workforce, the other one looking at communities, the third one looking at circular water economy, and then finally a team looking at cross-cutting issues globally, right? So what have we done to date globally, and what are the opportunities to expand the work under those 3 goals globally? So it's not a separate goal. It's just looking at the global perspective of those 3 goals. So as far as the timeline, we kicked off in December, and we're being supported by a consulting firm called McKinley Advisors that's been helping us with this process. So we did some initial discovery sessions, met with different stakeholders, and developed a plan for our research. How do we really dig in and understand the problem in detail? One of the core things that I believe about strategy is that a good strategy solves a problem that people have. So until you really understand the problem in detail, you really can't solve it. So that's why we really wanted to take our time in this, spend these last few months since January, really, doing the desk research, but also holding focus groups, talking to subject matter experts, both inside and outside of WEF, and just making sure we understand the problem we're trying to solve, in a very detailed and practical way. So we briefed the Board of Trustees on March 11th on the progress and the general framework for the implementation plan. And so since then, we've been carrying out the research. We'll be holding a offsite one-day strategy event with all the different teams at the Reservoir Center here in Washington, D.C., to then develop some of the initiatives based on the research. We'll be polishing that and further refining the narrative between April and June in working with the Strategic Advisory Committee. And then finally, in July at the next board meeting, the goal is to present the final plan for endorsement by the board. So what we're going to get to with the implementation plan is essentially this, right? It's going to be a document that essentially memorializes all of the discussions and decisions and research that we've been having. A strategy is as I like to say, a set of choices. It's an agreement that a group of people make to agree on a goal. It's not a document. A good strategy is simply the artifact that's left behind after people make that decision. And it explains the logic behind, why are we going to do what we're going to do and how are we going to get there? So the strategy document, the implementation plan, it's going to look at the landscape. What is that problem that's going to be solved? But then it's going to dig in a little bit more on the niche. What are the specific areas that WEF is uniquely suited to solve, right? Workforce, massive issue. There's any number of things we could do. What is it that we can do that no one else can? So then within each of those niches, what are the things we're going to do? What are the existing programs at WEF that we want to scale up? What are the new things that we want to start? So then once we know those things, then we can start to say, well, what are the resources we need? Who do we need? What are the skills that we need to do this? How much money is it going to take to do this? What kind of strategic investment does WEF need to make in order to deliver on these initiatives? And then who do we need to partner with in order to do it? We know that we can't do this alone, and particularly with workforce, circular water economy, there's a need to bring in a lot of expertise from outside the water sector. And so that's really the strategic plan is an opportunity to make those connections. And then finally is the key performance indicators, the outcomes. How do we measure our success in a quantitative way? What does the world look like in 2028 on the 100th anniversary of WEF when we're wildly successful in achieving this? So I'll just briefly step through, where the teams are right now, and happy to keep everybody in the loop going forward. I think in early May, we should have sort of a high-level narrative of, here's what we're planning to do, and the plan is to share that, with a broad group of stakeholders, including HOD, to get feedback. But I'll sort of share where we are now with this. So on the workforce goal, we've identified a few different potential niches. And the first one, and I think one of the most important ones where WEF can add value at the national level, is on building partnerships with workforce organizations outside the water sector, right? So what we know is, to make workforce development work, you need a well-structured formal pipeline, right? From educational institutions, from communities, into employers, right? If I'm somebody who's thinking about entering the water sector, I don't want to invest in community college courses if I don't know there's a job waiting for me on the other side. And similarly, if I'm an employer, I need to know that there's that pipeline of potential employees as I do my planning. And so there's a lot of other industries that have done a really good job of building that kind of formal pipeline at a national level. And so we want to be talking to them to avoid reinventing the wheel, right? So for example, Municipal Public Transport Association, a couple of years ago, did a very similar exercise to what we're doing now. Second is to serve as a platform for testing and sharing and scaling regional programs. What we know about both circular water economy and workforce is that these are inherently state level, regional level, municipal level issues. And so, I see the member associations as, the most important partners in delivering on this strategy. And I really, going to WEFMAX last week and hearing, about some of the workforce programs that are happening, in different utilities with the different MAs, it was really exciting. And I think it underscored to me why we want to focus on this as a niche. In particular, the presentation that Hampton Roads did about their workforce development project. What is WEF's role at the national level of providing a platform to share information on programs like that, to help identify how they could be packaged and replicated and scaled, and also to help find the funding for this. As part of the next strategy, one of the things I really want to do is to try and reach out to some of the large national foundations looking at workforce development, to raise money for this strategy and make sure that there's resources available for the MAs to test and scale workforce programs. Third one is around coordinating national sector association efforts. every single water sector association has workforce as a goal. And I think there's a real risk that we could wind up competing against each other and missing real opportunities to collaborate. And really, as I am somewhat biased here, but I think as WEF is the leading association in the sector, we have an opportunity to coordinate efforts on this. And we held our first Water Sector Association CEO lunch earlier this year, and we're going to keep holding these keep holding these sessions where people can get together and identify how NACWA and AWWA and WEF and other associations can collaborate effectively on workforce. Finally, is looking at how do we make sure that DEI is front and center in workforce development. So, for example, looking at how do we continue to scale the inflow program? How do we build relationships with underrepresented communities in the water sector to make sure people are aware of water jobs, make sure that they're being recruited and trained effectively? So the work, basically the main research that the teams are doing now is they're looking at, what are the needs of employers, right? Because we know that there's a gap, but there's a lot of questions about, well, how many operators are needed? Where are they needed? What are the circular water economy skills that manufacturers and engineering consulting firms are looking for? So we're answering those questions now. And we're also looking at, what has been done in other sectors and what can we learn from that? Next, on the community goal. So this one is in some ways an enabler of the workforce and circular water economy goals, right? It's about how do we create the communities where people can develop the solutions to address the barriers that are keeping these things from happening. So the first thing that this group did was really to define community. It's a pretty big amorphous concept, and we wanted to get a firm definition around it so that everybody was on the same page. And so what we're proposing under this is that, the WEF community is broader than membership. It's broader than the Board of Trustees, the CLC, HOD, broader than attendees of WEF Tech. That's sort of the core of the nucleus. That's sort of the core of the community, but it's broader than that. It's really about bringing together everybody who's working to solve water challenges and linking them. And it's not necessarily, are they members or are they customers? So it's also looking at those partnerships with other organizations, about bringing in global thought leaders, and about other people who are outside of the sector. Because I really see, for both the first and the third goals, a big thing we're trying to achieve is to connect. It's to connect employees and employers for goal one, and it's to connect sort of the users of resources developed by wastewater treatment plants with the producers of them. And so it's that community. How do we take the traditional constituency of WEF and link them with people who are working on water use in the agricultural sectors, or reuse in the oil and gas industry, or reducing water use in data centers? So we want to really build the sector, build the water sector association so that everybody who is thinking about water issues has a home at WEF. The research that this team is doing right now is they're looking at that customer and member experience. So through the eyes of a volunteer, through the eyes of a new member, what's that experience like, and how do we continue to improve it? And then the communities, right? How do we create those platforms for people to get together? How do we combine our events, our publications, our online platforms into a single unified platform for getting people together and sharing and collaborating? What's the content and programming we need? What's the technology that we need to support that? And then finally, who should we be working with in order to support that goal? So then for the last goal, team, for circular water economy, this one, we had a circular water economy task force that we convened recently, and that was a really nice springboard for this. So we had a much deeper sense here about, what are the barriers we're trying to address, and what are the things we need to be thinking about. So we built off of that, And we're able to identify the following potential niches for our circular water economy goal. And the first one is about catalyzing market making, right? So for biosolids, for treated effluent, for biogas, even the data that's embedded in wastewater, as we've seen with our CDC wastewater surveillance work, how do you find a market for that, right? It doesn't necessarily happen organically. And we've seen examples from other countries that have led on CWE that it takes some sort of enabling organization to catalyze that market. And that's the role that we want to play. Next is about understanding, well, what are the skills that are needed, and how do we educate people first on what is CWE? And then second, how do we make sure people have the skills that are needed? For example, around stormwater, we know that climate is going to be a major driver in stormwater. Climate modeling is a skill that's very much in demand. Green infrastructure is something where there's huge skill gaps. How do we support investment in these things? Next is building those partnerships with the water intensive industries. So our Circular Water Economy Summit this summer, we've got a number of different major multinationals, Coca-Cola, Google, Intel, Nike, who are going to be there to talk about how their own industries use water, and basically what can the WEF expert community do to help them use every drop of water more efficiently. The next one is about bringing expert communities together to develop circular water economy solutions, right? We know it's not just an engineering problem. We want to make sure that we have groups of experts from across all sorts of domains, including economics, policy, public health, law, in addition to engineering, working together to break down those barriers. And then finally, just like DEI is one of our core focuses in everywhere else, it's also a core focus around CWE. Right? We want to make sure that the benefits and the costs of the water sector are equally distributed. Just to go back to the stormwater example right now, right? Most of the people who are impacted by flooding tend to live in low-lying areas and tend to be a lot poorer. What is the role of circular water economy? What is the role of the WEF community in making sure that those risks and those benefits of water are equally shared? And then finally, just to look at the the global cross-cutting area, this one it's a bit different tack we're taking here. So to date, we've largely been North America focused, and we've done a lot of really great global work, and we've got several global MAs, and we've had a strong impact globally. But it's sort of ebbed and flowed a bit over, are we a truly global organization, or are we a North American organization that does work globally? And so we want to take the next couple of years to really test that hypothesis. For myself, it's something that I'm quite passionate about. I've worked in over 50 countries. I believe that WEF has a tremendous amount of experience to share with the rest of the world. I believe that there's honestly probably the main business opportunities in the water sector are going to be global in the coming decade. That's where all the new investment in infrastructure is going to be. And I also believe we've got a lot to learn from other countries, particularly around circular water economy. But I think we want to see, what kind of traction can we get if we scale up this investment? What would that look like? And then build on that. And so some of the activities, the sort of global activities that we could explore underneath those three goals, could include looking at our operator programs. Can we expand our international operations challenge exercise? We usually have a couple of teams from other countries compete at WEFTEC every year. Can we expand that? Can we work with other organizations on the Global Water Workforce Challenge? On the community side, how do we bring expert knowledge from around the world together? And how do we create partnerships around different emerging water topics? And then finally, around circular water economy, this is very much a global issue. I think we want to establish ourselves as a global thought leader on this, not just in the US, and to expand those global commercial opportunities. opportunities to learn from other countries, in particular by building regional partnership networks with Singapore, where we have a deep relationship already with the National Utility Singapore PUB, and also exploring opportunities with other countries that have done a lot around circular water, including Denmark, Netherlands, and Saudi Arabia, where they recently announced their commitment to reuse over 90% of their wastewater. So that's where we are with our strategic implementation plan to date. Before we open up to questions, I did want to share, one more development briefly, just to see if anybody had feedback on this. As part of Goal 2, we've been looking at our specialty conferences and really asking, how do we deliver these more efficiently, more effectively, so that more people have a chance to meet in person more often? Because that's really, I think, what we saw about the COVID pandemic, like in-person connection is just irreplaceable. And there's so much value in getting people together. And there's, ultimately there's only so much WEF staff time. And we want to ask, like, how can we deliver conferences as effectively as possible? And so the model that we're proposing to test in 2025 essentially has 4 different tiers. And the top tier is, conferences that have around 1,000 plus attendees. Those would be run in the model that we're currently doing. About 300 to 1,000 attendees. What we want to do is partner with some of the larger MAs that have done large 1,000-person plus conferences to do this, to do them together. We've worked with MAs for a long time on conferences, but to really build that out and have WEF lead on the content side and then share responsibility for logistics, business development, marketing, with the goal, not just of being able to do more conferences by freeing up WEF staff time, but also to build that relationship with the MAs. As I mentioned, we see the MAs, as our most important partners in delivering on the strategy. And I think working on conferences together, finding opportunities where we can collaborate, just helps us build that relationship even. The last 2 tiers, the first one, sort of the 100 to 300 person events or conferences, we want to, basically, can we come up with a standardized way of piloting new events? So the Circular Water Economy Summit, we launched that pretty quickly. Can we look at other emerging topics, like PFAS, for example? Could we design and launch a PFAS focused conference, within a few months if we had a standard toolkit for that? And then finally, what we want to do is to look at the model that IWA has around their conferences, which tend to be much more volunteer driven, and to create a common set of tools on the logistics side where, volunteers with some staff involvement could hold these sort of, very interactive, very participatory workshops or forums on a number of different topics. And this is where, I think the WEF Max model would be really great, because I cannot overestimate. It was such a great event last week. And, as I understand it, that's almost all volunteer driven. And I think we can just learn from that. I mean, can we do a WEF Max style event where we bring 50, 60 people to talk about regulation of PFAS or about agricultural water use, or, any number of different specialized topics where there's value in bringing experts together and coming up with those solutions to water challenges. So, that's what we're thinking about for 2025. Again, we're going out early with this because we want to get feedback on it. We wanted to kind of let people know what we're thinking. The three specific changes that we would be planning to test in 2025. So the first one is around merging the Residuals and Biosolids Conference and Innovations in Treatment Technology to create, and again, for 2025 as a pilot, and if doesn't work, we can move to something else in 2026. But something that I'm tentatively thinking of is like the resource recovery for the circular water economy. So there's a lot of opportunities for collaboration there on the solid side, on the effluent side. But to really, create this opportunity to think about what are all the different technical aspects of the circular water economy, and really to demonstrate we're the thought leader on that. And it also provides economies of scale, by running one single large conference of around 1,000 plus attendees. The second thing we want to test in 2025 is with collection systems and stormwater. We're in discussions with a few different MAs about partnering on that. And for the attendees, it should be the exact same experience. We would still be providing the quality assurance on logistics. Content is still managed as it is previously. But this way, again, the MA has the opportunity to host a national level WEF conference. We have the opportunity to partner and share the responsibilities for logistics. And ultimately, I think it's going to result in a stronger event. And then finally I'd like to pilot at least one or two of these smaller events based on the WEF Max model. Potentially in partnership with an MA. So, if any of you have any specific emerging topics you think might be good to test, please reach out, because I'm in the process of starting to have that discussions with different people. And really, I think that spirit of piloting, learning, adjusting is really one of the core values we want to push under this strategy around leading with boldness and agility. And I'm very excited about where we're going with the implementation plan in general, but also very specifically with the specialty conferences. I know I've been talking for a very long time. I'm eager to hear any feedback or questions people have now, if I haven't overstayed my welcome. Otherwise, I'm happy to have a follow-up call with anybody who wants to discuss further.
Okay, I think we have time for a few questions. So, hands raised. Anyone have any questions for John or comments? I see that Bill wrote in the chat that they would like to consider this on an operator conference level in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a contact.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, I think the operator aspects of workforce, it's such an important focus for workforce development. And it's a state level issue. I mean, the requirements are so state specific. That's a natural opportunity to partner. So Bill, you and I can connect afterwards.
Howard, I see that you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Alexia. Yeah, I just really want to thank John for coming out from behind the curtain on a lot of things that staff has been working on that's really now just starting to get released. It's really been a busy year for everybody, at least on the board and staff. And I'm glad to see that you folks are starting to see where we're coming and starting to turn the corner on some of the strategic plan, and looking forward to what the future brings. And I have to be sorry, Alexia, I got to jump off at 2. I got an important call I got to jump on to, but great meeting so far and keep it up.
Thank you, Howard. Appreciate that. Okay, any comments for John before we move on? Now, I will say, I know this is a lot to digest right now. So if you guys have any comments or questions that kind of come up as you're thinking about it, you can send those to me and I can give them to John, or I think you can probably contact John directly. So absolutely. Peter, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, thanks, Alexi. Yeah, I mean, that is a lot to take on board, and which is great. I'm just curious, how will communications on all these different initiatives, I guess I'll call them, be handed or be disseminated? And is there a schedule for some of the different initiatives?
Yeah, so we'll be developing its sort of first broad brushstrokes over the next few weeks, and then filling in the gaps with the final strategy document that'll go to the board in July. What we'd like to do is sort of share that high level version with people. I would see it going out to the House of Delegates. for review, comment. I think there's a lot of value in getting early feedback. So that's probably sometime probably mid-May, I would guess that would go out. And then as far as the timing on the initiatives themselves, once the strategy implementation plan is approved in July, we'll have a more detailed communication about engagement with the different groups. Some of it's going to be about scaling up existing activities. Some of it's going to be new initiatives. The document will kind of show the work plan for when things would start. And right now, the idea is that the implementation plan would cover, between now and 2028.
Okay, thank you. A great job. A lot of work involved in that, clearly. So
thank you. Well, the team's done a fantastic job, and I think we had a really amazing base to build off of with the strategy that the Board of Trustees developed.
All right. One last question or comment, anyone? Speak now. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you, John. Really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. And I'll, Alexia, I'll send you the slides and you can circulate them to the team if that's okay.
Yeah, that works great. Thank you so much.
Right. Thanks.
Okay, let me share the agenda again. All right. Okay, so next up, we have our new delegate spotlight. I'm going to hand it over to Bill, who is going to talk with Carol Martinson.
All right, here we go. So Carol, are you on?
Yep, I'm here.
All right, we got a first question for you. You ready?
I think so.
Fast five.
Okay.
What's your favorite color?
Definitely purple.
Purple. All right, what's your favorite food?
Chocolate. I can go without anything else. Like I'm fine, like cutting anything else out, but I cannot lose chocolate. That's the one. I call it a food. It's not just a snack or a treat. It's necessary.
Chocolate's a deal breaker. All right, what's your pet peeve?
Leaf blowers.
I've never heard that one. That's a good one.
You're gonna have to explain that one a little bit, Carol.
I live near people who I think have nothing else to do in life except use their leaf blowers all the time. And even in the winter, like we don't have any leaves going on, but they use it to like clear snow off. And I'm just like, come on, guys, just shovel. Anyway, that's
They must get
my
up
pet
really
peeve.
early.
Every day.
Oh boy. All right, there's a strange noise in the house at night. Who gets up to check it out?
Definitely me. I'm a single mom. I'm the one that has to cover all of it. So any strange noises are up to me to check out. Yep.
All right, I'm going off script. What do you carry with you when you go check it out?
I don't need implements. I've got.
Oh, all right. I like it. All right. What's your advice to other HOD members?
Get involved in a work group or a committee working on something. Like that's where the fun happens, is like doing things, right? And that's also where the connections happen, when you actually have like more frequent calls and you're working on something with somebody. Like it's definitely in the doing.
Yeah, I like it. Okay. Lastly, would you mind sharing your water story? How did you find water, or did water find you?
I pretty much knew this was what I was going to do always. My dad jokes that when I was 3, he realized that I was going to be an engineer. It's just my nature. And then I'm like one of the rare people that kind of picked this path of engineering and water when I was in high school. So I went to college and got my degree. I was happy. I never switched degrees or anything. I loved what I did in college, and I came out and I started working in consulting, and I've just loved it every single step of the way. So it was not like a very complex path. It was pretty straightforward. The one thing that I think hasn't been all that conventional is really my involvement with WEF. So when I started my career, it was with a really big engineering firm. When you're one of 10,000 water people in the company, right? And so I'm just looking around and I'm like, all the really smart people are going to WEF Tech. I don't know what that is, but like, sounds like something I want to go to. But when you're like one of 10,000, you know, like brand new in your career, nobody's sending you to WEF Tech. I was also in Australia at the time, so they definitely weren't sending me internationally to a conference. But then I moved to a smaller company where, you know, the company was only about 400 people and I was the water person. And suddenly I could just be like, hey, I need to go to this thing. Everybody that matters goes to WEFTech. So they just, without even knowing what it was, they just sent me to WEFTech and I've started going ever since. But the thing that was interesting was I didn't even know what an MA was. Like I just immediately jumped to WEFTech and started getting really involved at the national level. And it was honestly like 2 or 3 years of going to WEFTech before I knew what MA stood for, let alone actually started being involved in my MA. So I kind of went this path that was like the opposite of how a lot of people are involved in their local MAs and WEF. But it worked out really well for me because there was just so much to do. And at the national level, it was very welcoming within WEF to like get involved. And it started with the students and young professionals and leading activities and groups with them. And then it's just ballooned into, you know, a huge part of my career. But it is different than how most people go.
So are you a delegate at large?
Nope, I'm a delegate for Rocky Mountain. So I haven't gone through the usual or the common, I think somewhat common path of MA leadership to then being a delegate. They kind of wanted to look at using somebody who's, say, not as you know, they haven't done this like 7-year path of commitment already within their MA. Like I'm kind of new and fresh within the Rocky Mountain MA, really. But I have a pretty good understanding of WEF, so it was kind of a good fit because I kind of naturally knew how the national level activities worked. So this is maybe my MA like pulling me in, being like, Carol, be a little more active at the MA level, which is working. It's working really well.
So Carol, tell us one more last thing. Can you tell us what you did at WEF to get that experience and how you got there?
Like I said, I started with the students and young professionals and leading the event that they call Waterpalooza, which is on the Friday before WEF Tech. We go into the host city and the young professionals organize this whole day of an event where we bring hundreds of kids through booths to do water related activities. And we kind of leverage the fact that a lot of different companies with really interesting water professionals are in town. And so we get them to come early and like play with the kids, right? Teach the students things. So I did that for a couple years. Just a lot of involvement with the students and young professionals. And then I had to kind of grow up and I moved more into the industrial wastewater committee as like my technical committee that I'm involved with, and also became the chair of the awards and recognitions community now. So that was really great because it got me involved with all these different people and all the different groups within WEF that have awards related to, you know, the various aspects of the water industry. And it was kind of a dream role because your job is literally to like see all the amazing things that people in our industry are doing and award them and recognize them. It was like so much fun. So I did that for a couple years too before moving into this role as delegate.
Well, thank you for sharing. I'll turn it back over to you, Lexi.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, Carol, she lets me volunteer her a lot. So we're indebted to her and her work ethic and commitment. All right. So now I'm going to pass it on to budget for their update.
Thanks, Alexi. This is Doug Kobrick. We have 2 Dougs in the leadership of our committee. It says Doug Pike on the agenda, but you're getting Doug Kobrick instead. Sorry. Just a brief update on what we've been up to. You know, one of the main things that the budget committee does is administer the MA grant program. We have basically completed round 1 for this year. We had 14 applications for grants totaling about $156,000, and we wound up awarding 9, totaling $62,500, which is half of the annual budgeted amount of $125K. So there is a second round that has opened up now with the deadline in June. So certainly you MA delegates go back and get your MA to apply for some support from WEF. Another exciting item regarding the MA grant program is that we are going to be featured in the MA Spotlight on May 22nd at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, or as I like to say, 11 o'clock Arizona time. Amy Baker appreciates that. So we will go over how the program works and offer some tips on how to succeed in getting some money. And I know we're going to have at least one case study on a successful MA grant effort from Oklahoma that Alexi has lined up for us. So thank you. So encourage everybody to participate in that, try to get some money. Another item just to mention is we had our monthly meeting yesterday, actually, and it was a joint meeting with the CLC and the WEF finance staff and Christine, our treasurer. So we had Ian and Rasha both in our regularly scheduled budget committee meeting. That was a great opportunity for everybody to connect. And just one more item, another thing that the budget committee has in its charge is reviewing the WEF budget, not so much for all the details, but for consistency with the mission of WEF and our strategic plan. So we work on that. And something that we've decided to pick up as an additional task, which is still kind of developing a little bit, is to build upon some work that was done by a work group about 3 years ago on financial diversification for the MAs. There was a lot of good research done on how our MAs stand financially and ideas on how they can diversify their revenue streams to hopefully get a little more solid and hopefully do some information sharing amongst those who've been successful with those who maybe are looking for some other avenues. So we're still getting started on that, and the year is passing quickly. So we hope to be able to generate some results there. And so that's what we're up to at the budget committee.
Fantastic, thank you. I'm going to now send it to Amy for DE&I update. And guys, if you have questions, we have an open discussion period at the end of our meeting. So to try to maximize the amount of time we have for that, I'm just going to kind of run through our updates. So Amy, you're up.
Awesome. Thanks, Alexi. So I missed our last DEI committee meeting because I was in DC. However, I can promote the May 2nd DE&I networking call that we're having. The invite hasn't gone out yet. Right now, the committee just has it as on hold on our calendars, but we will, once we finalize the agenda, we will get out invites to everybody. And the theme of the call is the workforce development through scholarships and awards. And we're integrating just like diversity scholarships and other programs that some MAs have that we're going to be highlighting. So it'll be a really good call. So join in if you can.
All right, thank you, Amy. Water advocacy, Peter and Christiana.
Hello again. We are going to split this up, and I prepared a little slideshow. It's very short, but I figured, you know, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So let me see, slideshow from beginning. There we go. No, that's not going to work. Hold on. I'm just going to share it this way. Okay. So a lot of us were very busy last week, Peter especially, but many of us went to the National Water Policy Fly-In, which we've been promoting with the Water Advocacy Committee. And just to give you a little bit of insight into that, it's mainly over the course of a day, and then another day for congressional briefings and meetings. There was a YP scholarship breakfast, a government affairs community meeting in person, which was wonderful, and a plenary session. And let me see here. This plenary session was pretty incredible. I really enjoyed the couple of lobbyists that we had come to speak. They offered some very candid remarks. I loved seeing so many folks from our water advocacy committee in DC. Carol was there. Janine was there. Of course, Peter and I were there. And it was actually my first fly-in. I've been working on, national water advocacy for several years now, at 5 years now, I think, with WEF. But just because of life, I couldn't ever get there in person and COVID. So it was a whirlwind and it was just incredible. And I can't wait to do it again next year. And to keep the conversation going with our decision and policymakers throughout the year. This plenary session was really great. It was in the afternoon. And I have a star by this one, Chris Pappas. He was awesome. But everybody had really interesting remarks. And we were equipped with a lot of material to use when we went on these meetings. This is what we asked for, or part of what we asked for. Of course, amplifying essential funding for aging infrastructure. We asked for help with workforce and funding for that, and getting some awareness of our profession to the public. We, of course, talked about PFAS and getting an exemption from CERCLA to adopt polluter pays, kind of guidelines or regulations. We asked for more funding for water research and, of course, to protect pipes from wipes. We also talked about support for low-income families and households for their water services. And here's just a few shots. I hope you don't mind, Carol and Janine. I went to your LinkedIn pages and took some of your photos, which were awesome. And I got to walk around DC with some of the recipients of the YP scholarships. And oh my gosh, it was so much fun. And the future of our industry is very bright. We may not have the quantity of engineers that we need or operators that we need to do the jobs that we need to do, but the quality is certainly there. And with that, I will turn it over to Peter.
Thanks, Christiana. Fantastic job there. So the second part of our update will focus on WEFMAX, which was, I was late getting into WEFMAX, but I arrived in Thursday evening for a Friday morning update. The goal of that update was to debrief, describe the fly-in to the WEFMAX participants, and then do a debrief on some of the activity, much of what Christiana just shared with you all, and then to do a brainstorm session. So Lou Storino and I presented a summary kind of describing the framework and how the fly-in works. Then, thanks to Christiana, Amy, and others, had a bunch of photographs showing similar version of what Christiana just showed right now to the participants in WEFMAX, and just describing the process and trying to demystify, I guess, the fly-in process for them all. And so thanks, Lou, for working with me on that. Then the second part of that hour on Friday morning, we facilitated a brainstorm session on the topic of advocacy in general, and the fly-in. And each of the tables had a series of questions, a little questionnaire that they were working on. In fact, I have them all right here, and we've scanned them, and we'll be reviewing them and assessing the answers. But there was some great conversation, I think, among the tables, the breakout tables. And then each of the tables reported out on some of their key findings, some of their key kind of aha moments associated with the brainstorm session. we also, I guess I'll say, one of the thoughts that we kind of all left was, if we in the clean water industry don't advocate for clean water, who else will? There's folks in pharmaceuticals, in aviation, in transportation, in you name it. And as we walk the halls, I think I see a lot of nodding heads here. There are so many people at Congress every single day doing what we do once a year, which is great. We could maybe try and do some more, but at a minimum, it's really important we try and do that. And then I'll just leave you with one final achievement. Thanks to many on the call here and others, we finally achieved a milestone we've been targeting for some time. We signed up our 1,000th, it's not easy to say, 1,000th person into WEF's water advocacy program. So we finally achieved that goal. And thanks to everybody who's been involved with that on getting that achievement. So that's the update. Thank you, Alexi.
Wonderful.
And
thank you guys.
I just wanted to give a
Yes.
big shout out to Amy Kathman, because in addition
Absolutely.
to all of her work on the government affairs community, she's, helping us be our stand-in Kelsey. So thank you, Amy.
Great job, Amy. Thank you. Thanks, Christiana.
Thanks, Christiana. Super nice.
All right. Laura Jo, communications. John? Okay. Is anyone from the communications committee here for an update? Not seeing Laura Jo on here. Okay, we'll skip that for now then. How about WEF Max committee update? Dave?
Hey, everybody. I'm sitting here at a wastewater lift station here in a place called Quispamsis in New Brunswick, and I'm sure you can't say that place or know where it is, but it was a whirlwind. Virginia WEF Max last week, due to flight delays and weather, I didn't get home until 11 o'clock Saturday morning. Got some sleep, and then at 1 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, I get in my truck and I drove to an operators conference in New Brunswick where I just left an hour and a half ago, and then I had to stop at a pumping station. So it's busy time for everyone. I don't even really have to provide a report. Everybody that was talking is talking about how great WEF Max was in Virginia. So I guess that would be my official report, is what everyone else was saying. And it's really nice to see the water family of everybody. That's so many familiar faces and so many people that were at Virginia. And I'm looking forward to seeing people at the other two. I had told people at WEF Tech that I wanted to have 4 goals. I wanted to learn something new, make new friends, create some memories, and have some fun. And I think everyone that was there all agreed with me that they all helped us achieve those goals. So the theme for Virginia, Alexandria, was driving collaboration and engagement, and we certainly did that. There was a lot of collaboration between the tables. We had some great speakers. A lot of the speakers were people who were, one second, my battery's going to tell me I'll go offline here. A lot of the speakers were people who were attendees. So they were listeners and learners at one point, and then 5 minutes later, they put on their presenter's hat, and then they were presenters. So it was really great that the whole group shared with each other, which is the whole intent of WEF Max. And to quote Alexi, it's her absolute favorite event. And I think everybody would agree that has ever been to one. We did a great activity. We started with putting a map on a board, and people put push pins in the board to show where they were from. And then we used some dental floss and we connected all of the push pins to Virginia. There's a great picture that Carol Martinson put on LinkedIn. So go in there and like that, share it, because that just gives you a sense of where people came from to actually get to Virginia. So that was great. We had a couple of really unique activities at Virginia that only Virginia could do. We had the Renew Tunnel Tour, which was amazing. We got to go down an elevator underground and look in that big 12-foot diameter hole that was going off to who knows where it was going. But it was really, really fascinating to see that. We had a Black History walking tour, riverboat dinner, great team building exercises, the small group tasks, and like Peter was saying, Everybody was totally engaged at the tables to do the report outs. All the topics were very meaningful and tied in nicely with the themes. And we provided some surprises that you only hear about and learn about if you go to WEF. We're not talking about them, Alexi. We're not allowed to tell people.
I didn't say a word.
That's right. But the T-shirt idea was a great idea. We got some people to wear their T-shirts and got pictures to help future delegates to attend, which was a great idea. There was one little thing that I was going to mention, and it escapes me. Like I said, my head is in the cloud right now because I don't know what day it is. It's Wednesday, right? So anyways, that's about it. If there's any questions, I'm open. If anybody has any questions.
All right, wonderful. Thank you, Dave.
Oh, thank you, Alexi. And you're doing a wonderful job as the speaker role. Just wanted to say that it's not an easy job, and you're doing a wonderful job at it, keeping all these cats all herded. So it's a good job.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
Thanks.
that. Awesome. Okay. I'm going to now give it to the House of Delegates of the Future Emerging Leaders Work Group. Tina, I think I saw you were on. I don't know that I saw Haley. Do you guys have an update for us today?
Hello, hear me? Hello.
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. We just got started. Actually became officially a delegate last week at our NA conference, so that's exciting. And Haley sent out an invite to all of our members to set up our good time to meet. So we are just getting kicked off.
Perfect. So for those of you who may not remember, this year we have the 2 House of Delegates of the Future work groups, and they are both 6-month work groups. So the Emerging Leaders one was scheduled to start in April, so they are right on time. Okay, HOD of the Future Delegates at Large work group.
Well, I wish
Cam or Scott? There he is.
I wish I could say I was on time, but we're running a little bit late because we got started late in the year last year. But I think the bottom line is we give you the recommendations you need at the time you need it. So, but we had a meeting first part of April to get everything ready for WEF. We had a 15-minute session, and I attended Virginia. Mandy Shaposh attended Virginia. We got to talk about our constituency, and we also had 2 slides that showed how the delegates at large fit into the HOD. And if I remember right, and David can correct this, but we had a lot of new people at the WEF I've never met. Probably about 50% of everybody was new. Not very many delegates at large, but they're new people. So, I mean, fantastic. I walked in there, it was like, I don't know anyone except maybe 6 people. So, but where we're at now is we've done a survey of the delegates at large. We kind of did that visual. We have a presentation that we'll present probably next quarter HOD meeting. But what we're getting ready to do and probably start, our meeting will be probably the first part of May, is we're going, Cam and I are going to give some seed questions, recommendations of what we think the DAL should be from the perspective of the surveys, and then let it grow, let it go organic. And hopefully by next couple of months, we should have some recommendations for you, Lexi. Because, you know, this is one of those things that the 6-month can kind of go to a little bit longer, a little bit shorter. But nice thing is we got recommendations. So it's been a really unique thing because not everybody knows what a delegate at large is, which is good and bad. But hopefully we can give you some recommendations. So that's kind of where we're at. Cam, are you on?
Yes, I'm on.
Anything
I
you
don't
want
really,
to add?
yeah, the only thing that I will add is that the bottom line is where I think the work group needs to be continued in some shape or form. What we are barely scratched the surface. So that's all I can say.
Yeah, that's the way these work groups work. You start, you know, just ask Scott from last year, you start and it blows up on you. That's all I got, Lexi.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you guys. Next up, we have the MA Best Practices Work Group update. Erin, I saw you're on.
Yeah, I'm here. I have a short presentation as well, just to show some of the deliverables that we've been working on. Can you see that now? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we were one of the 3-month work groups, which was a new thing this year as well. So we were January to March, and we're just wrapping up now, sort of. We're kind of finalizing some of the documents that we developed through our work group. So our task was to develop some guidance and some materials for MAs to use for the selection of delegates, and also to provide to potential delegates to let them know what their roles and responsibilities and expectations of the position are, and then also to develop some a sample application form that MAs can use to select their delegates. So I just put a couple screenshots of some of the things that we've developed, but basically we put together a toolkit of information that MAs can use for their delegate selection process. So we have a flow chart that kind of lays out the steps that we envision, a document that has a few points on the value of being a delegate that we collaborated and generated some ideas for that. We were planning to include I guess so there's the one pager that's kind of 2 sides, and then the 10 things to know as a new delegate that the HOD new member onboarding and orientation work group created. So we were going to include those in our toolkit because I think there's a lot of value in potential new delegates knowing all of that information as well. We're collecting still some example documents of support. So for potential new delegates to use for their employers, that would provide information on what is involved in the role, and then also give them some information on potential time commitment and cost involvement as well. And then we created 2 sample applications, one which is a self-nomination form, and then one that is more of a MA board nomination form. So I just put a couple of screenshots in of some of the documents that we developed that we're working on. So this is the delegate selection process flowchart. So the steps that we see in order to get to the new delegate selection, and then the intent is also to link some of these other documents that we've created or compiled in here as well, so that they can kind of find where those documents will be kept, which is something that we still need to figure out, I think, because where all of this information is going to live. And then the value of being a WEF delegate. So right now it's just a list. We're going to make this into a kind of a nice, pretty it up, as Dan would say. So we'll put that into kind of a WEF format as well. And these are the documents. I think most people have seen them. I know this one was at WEF Tech last year, which was, I think, from a work group last year as well. And then the onboarding group, I think, made some edits to it. And then they created this 10 things to know as a new delegate going into WEF Tech, which I think some of these things, which are, you need to be there on Friday. We suggest you be at the official hotel. I think that Bill had mentioned in the chat earlier. So that's an awesome document, which I think is really helpful for potential delegates and also new delegates. This is one of the documents that we have for the documents of support that the potential delegates can use either to support their involvement with their employer, or even just to have MAs can have this to let new potential delegates know what is involved. And these are the sample application forms. So we have the self-nomination form, which has a bit more information that the actual potential nominee can fill out themselves. And then there's a board nomination form, which really has kind of some questions of, does the candidate know they're being nominated? And if they don't, have you told them what's involved? So it's really kind of providing all that information that we compiled as well. So I think that's all I have. And we will figure out how to circulate that information, I think. Work with the communications committee, I think.
Yeah, that's great. And I especially love that the two work groups work together to put together this toolkit. I think it's really awesome. And you know, I think the intent at some point is to get all this uploaded to the House of Delegates page on WEF.com, and we'll get all, I guess it's WEF.org, and we'll get all that sent out to everyone as well. Awesome job. Okay, I have Workforce Development Work Group.
All right, so I was in the previous work group that Aaron just went through, and I do just have to say a lot of work was put in on the back end by Dan, by Aaron, by Mike, by a lot of people in that working group, and it was impressive, and the documents look amazing. So we are also working on a toolkit that I have to confess will probably not be as beautiful, but we don't know. We don't know yet because we've only had 2 meetings. So we'll see what we can come up with. But we have sent out a survey polling for different programs that other MAs do, that the MAs do that can be included in a toolkit. We received those back. We went through them. Then within our work group, we had a survey monkey where we set everything out to decide, like, what do you like of all these programs? What are your favorites for bringing people into the water industry? What are your favorites for training maybe newer employees in the water industry? And then also for developing and retaining those who are in the water industry. So we did that survey monkey, we got the results back. So at this point, we're drafting up an email that we're going to send out. So within the survey, the original survey, it wasn't necessarily the delegates that answered. They may have, the delegates may have answered, but they may not be the person who is going to be sending us the information. Like I know, Scott, you are the contact for the information that we're looking for, but an example would be for New Zealand, it's not Jillian Blythe. They have someone within their MA that's going to be able to provide us this information. So that's kind of our steps. We're just going to start reaching out, seeing what we can get back. And hopefully they're going to be good, like SOPs or processes for how the other MAs can implement different aspects of workforce development within their MAs based off of what other MAs are currently doing successfully. Carol, do you have anything to add? She may have had to hop off.
Okay.
But so that is it for us.
Fantastic. Thank you. Next, the House of Delegates Strategic Plan Work Group update.
Get the slides here. Just kind of quick update. So again, we had that WEF activity, which everybody participated in. And so we've been working on that extensively. We've been meeting every other week for quite a while. And so to date, we've kind of have a draft mission, vision, and value statement. So we'll be sharing those here in a second. And then we worked on preparing a WEF Max advertising HOD challenge. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And then after we get through all the WEF Maxes, we'll be focusing our efforts to identify goals to drive us for the next 3 years of activities for the HOD. So again, appreciate everybody's input. This is kind of a word jumble of everything that everybody provided. It was a lot. It was a lot to go through, vision and values. And so we've come up with what we have for a draft mission, vision, and values. To serve as the voice of the member associations and constituents, creating a community of water leaders that unites member associations in the Federation, a vision. So where we're at when this is perfectly implemented in a few years, be the effective, premier, preeminent. We're still working on the wording there. Network of resources supporting water professionals. A lot of this discussion was, is it MAs, but we also have delegate at large and other constituencies. So we kind of focus on water professionals. And then values, going back to all those words that were there: inclusion, equity, diversity, service, engagement, and openness. And so this kind of led us into our advertising HOD challenge, which I'm going to turn over to Lee to talk about here a little bit.
So we had a lot of brainstorming about, and if, hey Dave, you can thank some of us for this. No death by PowerPoint, right? So have it engaging, teach somebody, and of course promote networking. So thanks to a brainstorm session with Carol Martinson, we came up with the chalkboard advertisement challenge, where we asked attendees at WEFMAX to create an advertisement for the HOD or an HOD delegate candidate. And we provided each table with a chalkboard. We even got an Amazon in our meetings and investigated this, and chalk markers, scratch paper, so they could kind of outline what they were going to do. And then we were really prompting people to create a message and appeal to the audience, hopefully capitalizing on people's inner artistic elements, realizing a lot of us are very analytical, and trying to tie this to the HOD purpose, and attempt at branding. And so we didn't just want to create an activity that said, hey, what do you think our mission, vision, and values should be? We did that at WEFTech. Now we wanted to validate what we have done so far through this activity. So next slide, Scott, we got into, we said, look, think about it. These are some advertising campaigns that we just pulled offline that could be inspirational material. And so everybody divided into tables, and Carol said everybody had a great time, but these are just some quick images of people really putting a lot of effort into it. And we saw everything from simple messaging to really complex. And these are three that we kind of pulled out and said, wow, we didn't show them our mission, vision, and values statements before all of this activity. We kind of flashed it at the end, but we really saw a broad range of what people saw, the purpose of the HOD, and how they would recruit people, from don't be a wallflower, be the change, right? Join the HOD. Very clear, using QR code images and so forth. To it's not a black box. This was explained as let's take the mystery out of it. There's so many elements to what makes the WEF House of Delegates, and to be able to understand the flow, right? Capitalizing on the water. We have the House of Delegates. It's truly a house. And this was one of the few that incorporated what they titled, kind of flipped it, water circular economy. And you see the key elements of social impact and the competition for funds, as that was explained, and the economic impact and health impact. So, kind of building that foundation. So overall, this activity is bringing us so much information to really utilize as we move forward in establishing our goals. But it was bravo, a success overall, and thank you to Carol Martinson and Laura Joe for facilitating in Virginia. And we look forward to doing the same in Utah. And then we keep improving. And then, of course, St. Petersburg, Florida. But we were told it was fun.
It was fun, gotta say. Very much enjoyed that activity. All right, wonderful. So now that we've made it through all of our updates, I'm going to open it up to questions. So do you guys have any questions for our committees or work groups? People are quiet today.
I have one quick question on the it's great that they're creating materials for MAs to use for delegates, but I'm just curious if there was some outreach, and I may have missed this, to some of the MAs to see what they currently use as kind of a reference.
Yeah, this is for us, right, Lee? We did do a survey out to all the MAs to ask how you currently recruit for your delegates. What are your challenges? What do you see as barriers to candidates wanting to put themselves forward as a delegate? And yeah, I think kind of what do you see as the value? So that, like, we did try and get that input. We did get a decent response for the survey, and so we tried to incorporate that into the documents that we developed. So I saw you added something in the chat, so we can take that back. Like I said, we're still working on finalizing these, so they're still draft at the moment. So
Yeah, I just didn't know if
welcome
anybody
any
gave you their
feedback.
forms. Did anybody give you their forms to, I know that some of the states have those. I was just curious. Some of them are really long.
We did get a few. Yeah, we had some MAs that sent documents back with their surveys, which was helpful as well. We did ask if anyone wanted to provide any samples that they currently have in place. That would help us as well to try and, like, we realize that everyone does it differently, right? So we're not trying to standardize it so that everyone has to do it the same way, but make tools that, you know, you can modify or use to suit your own MA's needs. So that was what we were trying to do. So it's not a, you know, everybody has to conform, but just to help with their processes.
I love your education materials, though. I wish I'd had those 4 years ago about what it means to be a delegate. I mean, that is going to be eye-opening. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Hey, Peter, I see you have a hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Alexi. You know, that was a great exercise in Alexandria, and it made me think a little bit. I don't know if this has ever come up in the past, but obviously we're trying to advertise House of Delegates, demystify the process of what we do and who we are. Has thought ever been given to a House of Delegates booth at WEFTEC during WEFTEC?
Not as far as I'm aware.
I can see some challenges in terms of what we would do and what, you know, who would be there, et cetera. But if we're, you know, it's our event, right? It's WEF's event. And if we're trying to get in among, I know we have all our activities Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but if we're really trying to get among the populace, the 25,000 people, I mean, maybe what better way to do that than get right among them with a booth?
Well, some of these forms that we came up with might be good handouts. You know, the value of being a delegate or what to expect when you're a delegate, and that might answer some questions for people.
Yeah.
One thing we've started, though, Peter, on that concept, I see your hand up, Dave. I just wanted to mention we stopped having we invite people at the state level. We invite people to a networking at the end of our board meetings. So we've kind of cut our board meeting a little short and have a separate virtual one. But hey, you want to gain more information about being a leader or being involved, come to our networking session. And we have just kind of appetizers and drinks. It's like in an afternoon. But I mean, I can give people a lot of literature, but you don't know what it's like until you sit in a House of Delegates meeting. And having started as a delegate during COVID, it was a real shock.
Yes.
So, you know, networking, inviting people that are already at WEFTEC to network at the end of our meeting. I don't know if that's ever been thought of, Alexi, but hey, if you have interest, we're going to have this hour and a half, you know, this afternoon. If you're already here at WEFTEC, come on by. Get a soft drink and a snack or whatever, and talk to some of our current delegates and WEF leadership and learn what it's about.
While we have everybody there, captive audience, right?
Right.
Bring them in, in whatever format. It's just, you know, you have that many people in quotes one room. We do all our activities Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I say we don't disband after that, but maybe there's further opportunity and obviously effort associated with it, but sounds like some opportunity,
now,
whatever the format, whether it's a booth, an event.
Yeah, let me noodle on that a little bit. Sure. I did participate in the membership community call yesterday and invited everyone to the House of Delegates meeting. So I said, if you're there, and you want to attend, you're more than welcome to. It's open. So I definitely want to remove the shroud of mystery that surrounds what we do. Let me see what I can come up with on some of that. I don't know about the booth. I like the idea of the booth. I got to figure out logistically how that would work, but I think we could definitely work in some sort of networking situation. So yeah, let me see what I can do. I think those are good ideas. Okay, there was a question on the chat real quick before I get to more hands raised. WEF support to the WEF delegate at large. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Dave.
Sorry. I just had one comment on that. And when they were talking about, booth, it's interesting walking through the hall where all of the vendors are, and you're wearing your name tag and it's got the delegate sticker on the bottom. I don't know how many times people come up to me and say, well, you're a delegate, you must be really important. And it's like, what's a delegate? And it's like, and I'm thinking, it's like, and it really took me back. It's like, people don't know what a delegate is. And then I realized, oh yeah, that's right. There's so many people that don't have a clue what an MA is or a delegate or what we do. So I think it's a great idea that Peter brought up is, maybe not have a booth, but maybe we could have meet a delegate and set up at the bookstore or somewhere where, then just have somebody, okay, we want a couple delegates from different MAs, have a Canadian like Aaron or myself, and with all of our American friends, or like Jillian from New Zealand or someone from Puerto Rico, and then maybe just have a table or something and be there and put it on the program and say, come meet a delegate if you don't know what it is or whatever. But I think that's a great opportunity just to, and like the handouts that Aaron was showing, it's like, okay, this is what a delegate is. I think we could really leverage off of that. So I can see the gears are working behind Alexi's ears there. So I think it's a great idea to do something. It doesn't have to be a full-time booth, but like you say, bookstore, everybody goes by the bookstore. So something to think about.
Okay.
Think outside the box.
I'm also picturing the New Orleans conference center in my head, because they have all like that Starbucks that's in like the very middle, of that kind of area that people congregate. And I'm trying to think of like different areas we could do that at. Okay. Good point. Thank you, Dave. Vachi, did you have a comment on this, or do you want to go ahead and do your comment? Question?
Yeah, I just have a question. I'm new to the HUD, and it was my first time in WEFTEC last year, and I kind of got orientation of the committees and all that. And there was a question that we discussed in length, I think, that all of us, we take the message to our MAs, and there was going to be some kind of a messaging format, or so that we can be consistent with the messages, let's say from committees, from clean energy, from PFAS, so that we can all have the same message consistent to our MAs. Is that in progress, or maybe I missed it? I just wanted to bring it up.
So yes, on the HOD side, we are finalizing how we're wanting that to look to get out to everyone. In terms of the technical side, I think that is still an ongoing discussion on how to get the CLC community technical information to our MAs. That is still ongoing. So I don't have an answer for you right now, but it is something that we are still working through. And I promise I will update you guys as soon as I get that figured out a little bit better.
Thanks.
Bill, did you have a comment on this real quick, or is this new?
Hey, no, this is new.
Okay, hold for a second. I want to answer a couple of the questions that came in the chat real quick. So Jaime asked if WEF support for the WEF delegate at large funding to attend WEFTEC. Yes, so my initial plan is to sell WEFTEC t-shirts similar to how we're doing WEF Max, and then the proceeds from that will go towards a grant to help delegates attend WEFTEC if they do not receive support from their MAs or companies, etc. So that is in the works and I'm going to hopefully get that out within the next month or so everyone can prep for that. Probably sooner than that, let's be honest. I'll probably just like not do anything else for the day and just do all HOD stuff. So since I'm on like that path, kind of how I operate. So yes, there's going to be some sort of grant program that we're trying to put together for funding for WEF Tech. So I'm working on it and I will get more information out to you guys soon. Okay, let's see. Janet, you have a question here. Can something be done in conjunction with the Leadership Day activities? Do you want to talk about that just briefly?
The suggestion about the table or the booth, because I know that in
Okay.
the past there's been leadership activities scheduled through the day. I didn't know if that might be an
Mhm.
opportunity.
Okay. Yeah, I can look into that. We can see about coordinating those. I was wondering, yeah, I was thinking in my head, maybe we can figure out a way to do something with the board too, and maybe the CLC and get us all together. Let's see. Okay. Bill, you had your hand up. I'm sorry.
No worries. I'm going to get everybody to do a little exercise, try to wake everybody up, and it won't take me long. How many on this call are on more than one committee or work group? Raise your hand. And let's see what we got here. I see 17 people. Well, 16, 17. Okay, 17 people, 19 people. 19 people are on more than one committee or work group. So how many people, all right, drop your hands, everybody. All right, let's get everybody to drop their hand. All right. So how many people want to be on a work group or a committee next year? Raise your hand. Keep raising them. Let's get a capture of all those people's names on the screen here. Amy, can you screenshot these? Let's see if Amy can screenshot these, because what you're going to want to do next is go to our WEF.org and sign up for multiple committees, because sometimes the nominating committee has to select from a group of people and there may be no openings in the particular committee. So I would say put 1, 2, 3 different committees or work groups. Or if you want to be a work group chair, or if you want to be a committee participant, put 2 or 3 down, because we'll try to pick you based on availability, and that gives you another option. So that's just my plug really quick from being on the nominating committee last year. We had multiple people that had to be signed up for multiple committees because people didn't apply. So apply. Thank you. That's all I got.
Yeah, Bill, and I know that you you look for people who are, or people have provided feedback on the 3-month work groups, the 6-month work groups, and my feedback is that's how I was able to do more than one work group, was because of the staggered nature of it. So I liked that. I don't know if you had other people who had different feedback, but yeah.
Maybe not chairing multiple ones like you, but
Well, no, but like I don't know how Ellen does her job, because she's like on everything I'm on, and probably more than I'm not on. So it's like I see all the same faces. Everyone's doing so much. I mean, and it's obvious that's why we're delegates, because we can't say no and because we want to do everything. But that's just, it's a great group of people.
Yeah, we have a lot of openings and a lot more committees than we used to, which means there's a lot more work to be done, and we need you. Like I said on my LinkedIn page, we want you.
I just caution, you can spread yourself too thin. And so there is a maximum. And I think we all need to be aware of that. I'm the biggest guilty person here. So that other than Alexi and Bill, you guys are involved in a lot.
Fantastic. All right. So any last comments or questions? And then I'm going to answer Kara's question about how WEF is structured. So I'm going to open it up for one or two more comments, questions, and then I'm going to talk about that. All right, are y'all's hands up for real? I can't tell. Okay. Felicia, do you have something?
I'm trying to figure out how to lower my hand. Sorry.
No, you're good. No, you're good.
Gosh, me
You're good. I'm
too.
just making sure that I got everyone covered. Like I want to.
If somebody else
lower
can,
hands. I can
thank
lower your
you, whoever
hands.
did that.
All right. I love it. You guys are the best. Okay. So I actually talk about this at WEF Max because, you know, we find out that, of course, I found out that the House of Delegates is considered a black hole. So if you guys notice in the strategic plan activity that was done at WEF Max, that was actually a theme of a few of the posters, is that WEF Max is, or the HOD is a black hole and no one knows what it is. So this is a generic, I'm going to admit, it's pretty rudimentary slide of the branches of WEF. So the first one, you have the Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees, the next three kind of report to the Board of Trustees. I'm going to start over here. You have the WEF Executive Director. As you guys know, there's currently a search for the new executive director. I believe the intent is for that person to be on board well enough time before WEF Tech. So we should all get to meet that individual at WEF Tech, if not earlier. Reporting to the executive director is the WEF, we call them the E-team. I'm not going to name them all, but these are all like the executive level managers and everything of WEF. And then, of course, we have our WEF staff. I want to point out, we interact as volunteers with only a very small portion of the WEF staff. So there are something like 80-something people who work for WEF. I know it's a much larger than what I even knew, but we only talk to a very small portion of the WEF staff. And so there's so many people behind the scenes making this all work and helping us. Even if we don't get to talk to them regularly, they are there and they are helping every day make this organization work. So in this middle here, we have the Community Leadership Council. That is Rasha and Ian. They are the chair and vice chair of the Community Leadership Council. Under that, you have, sorry guys, the directors. They're called Community of Practice Directors. And they each act as liaisons to the different communities. And so those communities, some of them are technical in nature, some of them are not. So you have everything from like collection systems, you have, industrial, you have awards, government affairs. There's so many. I don't even know how many there actually are. There's a ton. Janet actually showed a really awesome slide when she was at WEF Max about the CLC, and there's so many communities. I don't even know how they keep them all straight. But anyway, so the communities are all structured similarly with the Met transformation that they had. So all of them have chairs, vice chairs. A lot of them have second vice chairs, and then so on. And then you get to the House of Delegates right here. So the House of Delegates is made up of delegates that come from either member associations or constituencies. So the constituencies are the delegates at large. The reason why I have them looking like this as opposed to the more top down is that as delegates, we do not run the MAs necessarily. So for example, they do not report to us. We act on behalf of, we provide communication to and from the MAs in our constituencies. It is not necessarily a you're in charge situation. Now, I believe delegates do sit on the boards of most, if not all MAs. But I wanted to make that distinction. Jaime, your hand is up. you have a question or comment?
Nope.
Oh, no, you're good then. I just want to make sure. So this is the 3 kind of branches of WEF. And again, I'm going to use the term report up, but we all work together and advise the Board of Trustees with what their duties are. So real quick, what is the House of Delegates? You can tell my screen's right here with the PowerPoint because I keep pointing at it. What is the HOD? So we are the deliberative and representational body of WEF. Okay. We are comprised of delegates from the member associations and then our delegates at large. There are 12 delegates at large. 4 of them roll off every year and we select 4 new ones. The one thing that I want to really point out is this keyword federation. WEF is a federation that is unique. Most organizations like WEF, their sections, like AWWA sections, report directly to the main AWWA. So that is a very top-down structure where AWWA tells all their sections what they're going to do. WEF does not operate that way. So each one of our MAs is its own entity that is affiliated with WEF, but WEF cannot and does not dictate to the MAs what they're going to do. So I know this was a topic last year that took me a very long time to wrap my head around, was the strategic plan. So WEF developed the strategic plan, and we could not go to the MAs and say, here's your strategic plan, you're going to do this. So we work with the MAs, we provide the information, and we help them align with what, the strategic plan, for example, but we cannot dictate to them. So for example, we cannot dictate to them how their new delegates are selected. They all have the autonomy to do that based on their own needs and structure of their MA. So I really want to point that out because it is so unique to our organization. And the House of Delegates is important because we represent that federation. And I'm pausing there because to me, that's a really important part of what we do. We represent the federation. We represent the MAs and the constituencies. So I hope this helped. Kara, do you have any other questions? Or does anyone have any questions about how WEF is structured and what specifically our role is within WEF?
I mean, you did a great job of explaining it, just for the record. That helped me a lot. But it did boost a second question from me. How do I get feedback, like from my constituency, which is not necessarily an MA, to folks who can do something about it? Because I obviously can't do the most, but I want to help get that done.
So, Kara, you are a delegate at large. This has been a topic of conversation, I think, for a very, very long time on how do we help our delegate at larges connect with their constituencies and provide the information back and forth. Having never been one, I'm going to defer to some of our delegate at larges that I know are on this call right now and maybe they have suggestions on pathways that they use to gather information or communicate information back and forth. Krishana's smiling. She wants me to not call on her. I can see it.
Don't we have a whole work group dedicated to this very question?
Trying to figure out this problem. Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm in it too. It's just
yes. It's I don't have any easy answers. Myself personally, I just do things through word of mouth. When I know that someone typically goes to WEFTech and we are in similar, situations in life, I let them know, what's available to them at the conference, and chat about if there's, anything that's holding them back from going, but I haven't, and I mean, I would say to elevate it, I would think going back to Alexi and raising it through those, channels. I don't,
Mhm.
I think it would be
I think-
weird to kind of go in another.
I think
Yeah.
that there are several ways though that it can be done. I think like Kara, for your specific, you're representing YPs, right? I want to make sure I have it right.
Yep.
Okay. Getting involved with the YP community at WEF might be a really good avenue to start bringing some of that information back and forth. Getting involved with the YPs at your own MA. I know you're a delegate at large, and you're gonna have to remind me because I think you moved, right? Didn't you move
I
at one
did,
point?
and I'm actually involved with the YPs in my MA
Fantastic.
now. Would you look at that?
So see,
Very good.
giving that information, gathering information from them in these several different areas is going to be really awesome. Conduit for information back and forth. And I admit that is a struggle for being a delegate at large, is how do you find those pathways? And I think integrating yourself where possible is a really great way to do that. So I definitely encourage you to take a look at the YP community. They are extremely active and extremely vocal, present, engaged members, and they would be a really awesome resource and way to communicate everything that we're doing and WEF is doing.
Yeah, so I guess
Any
my question
other-
is more the
Okay.
reverse. So I'm actually not hurting for the feedback. I'm pretty good at hearing what folks are giving me. I just don't know who to give that feedback to. Like, for example, I do like university reach out as well. So I've gone to like several universities and I'm just like, they gave me a ton of stuff. It was really good stuff, but I don't know who to give that to.
To give that to through WEF? Or
Yeah.
to give that to like, oh, me?
All right,
Or,
I'll stop. I'll start bothering you.
yeah, start bothering me. No, seriously. But you're bringing it to the delegates. This information does get back to the board. So, for example, we have several board members who are on today. We have several people who might not be on the board, but they sit on board committees. And we can get it to staff. So yeah, whatever feedback you guys are getting, if you communicate that to us, we can give you at the very least a path forward in WEF to get that information, sent out and absorbed by the right people. So for sure.
You'll have an email
bug
in
me
your
all you want.
inbox this week.
Okay, good. I want it. Send it to me. Okay. Any other questions? I really appreciate y'all staying on for this. That was great. All right. Well, thank you guys for attending our quarterly board meeting. We will have another one July. I want to say, I think it's in July. So, yeah, I really appreciate it. And again, feel free to reach out to me whenever you need something. So thank you all.
Thanks. See you all at the next WEF Max.
See you guys.
in
Thank you.
Utah.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.